In any presentation or anytime you meet a customer for the first time, they have a set of questions that they're asking themselves. Number one is, who is this person in front of me? Do they care about me? Who is their company, and can their company help me? And does their company care about me? Or is their company or is this person involved in my community or in my social network? What they're looking for is, if this person wounds me, who can I go to gain support to ensure that my wound can be healed? The next question they ask themselves is, can they actually help me with my specific problem? Now understand, the consumer believes that their specific problem is unique to them, that they're the only person on the planet with this problem. Your job, of course, is to explain to them that you've dealt with this problem in the past and to give them examples of how you've solved this similar problem to them. The next question they may have is, what is your strategy to solve their problem? Their specific problem. What is it going to cost me? And in fact, many times in sales, people have a tendency to avoid the conversation around cost. And they just avoid it completely or don't bring it up. This leaves the consumer to believe that there might be something that they don't know or some distrust in this conversation. It's better to address the cost directly in your conversation. Who else have they helped in my specific situation? Now, this is your testimonial, and having your testimonial relate directly to the specific problem that they mentioned earlier. So if somebody says that my specific problem is X, don't give them a testimonial that only addresses Y. Think about when you order something on Amazon and you're going through and you're looking at the reviews. If you're like me, you're looking for the reviews that are similar to the situation or the specific problem you're trying to solve to see if the product actually solves that specific situation. I'll give you an example in the next slide. The next piece is, what are my rights or my expectations? Meaning, if I receive this product or service, what can I rely on? What can I expect? So being able to convey this in a specific way is going to be it will be powerful in endorsing you as the right choice. And lastly, the person might ask, what is my risk? Meaning, if I make this decision or this choice and my expectations are not fulfilled, then what do I lose? Is there any type of guarantee? Is there any type of stop loss? For example, we've all ordered products or services that might have a subscription service. And am I bound to 6 months? Am I bound to a month, right? And so if things don't go well, what could happen to me? What is my greatest risk? Next, we want to identify, how does a consumer determine value? There's 5 things that the consumer looks for to determine value. Now, understanding this will separate you from being a commoditized product. A commoditized product is like coffee beans or like flour or sugar or gasoline, right? Most of us don't shop around and choose our gasoline by what we perceive to be the best type of gasoline. For most of us, we're shopping around buying the gasoline from the gas station that we believe obviously isn't going to hurt our engine, yet has the lowest price of gasoline. So gasoline by design is a commodity, and a consumer will typically choose a commodity based on the lowest cost. Now, in sales and in providing service, the last thing we want to do is be commoditized, meaning the consumer sees us like everybody else. And this happens when the service provider is offering things based on features and benefits, especially common features and benefits, or features and benefits that would be considered the expectation of the role that you're performing. So if you're a real estate agent and you say, I'm going to put it in the MLS, I'm going to take photography, we're going to do a video tour, and we're going to stage. These are standard expectations of being a real estate agent. And today, those are kind of the minimum things that you need to do to provide good service to your customer. If you're a loan officer, you would say, I give, I have the lowest interest rates, and I close on time, and I'll call you back. Those are, once again, the minimum expectations of service. So we want to differentiate ourselves from the conversation by giving them some other items that they can use to differentiate us from everybody else saying those type of things. So the 5 determiners of value that are based out of the book How to Sell at Margins Greater Than Your Competitors by a gentleman named Steinmetz. And this is an outstanding book where he observes why a consumer buys products like automobiles that may be $300,000 Bentleys versus a $60,000 Mercedes-Benz, or the $60,000 Mercedes-Benz versus a Toyota Camry. What is going on in the consumer's mind that gets them to believe in buying something that might be 3 or 5 or 10 times as much? Another great example of this is watching Starbucks change the price of coffee by learning how to develop a product that has a different message. And by doing so, the price of a coffee went from 50 cents to $3.50, and probably today upwards of $5 or $6 if you're my teenage kids. So here's the 5 determiners of value of where people will expect and be willing to pay more for a product or service over another product or service that's fundamentally offering the same thing. So number 1 is longevity of service. How long have you been offering this product or service? Okay, so I'm going to give you a story about my experience with this and a decision that I had to make. About 5 years ago, I decided to change my lifestyle in the way I eat. And the first thing I tried to do was to go on a high vegetable content diet. And by doing this, I decided I would use juicing of kale and vegetables as a way to intake the fruits and vegetables that I chose to eat every day. Now, starting out, I already had 2 blenders. I had a Black & Decker blender, and I had another smaller blender that we could use for mixing, say protein drinks and those kind of things. So I began chopping up the kale in the Black & Decker, but the Black & Decker would not blend the kale to small enough pieces to where it wouldn't get stuck in my teeth. So in my searches, I found another blender that was a smaller portable style blender that had very small sharp blades and would rotate at very high speeds. And this small blender would blend the kale very finely, but it was so small that it could only make 1 serving at a time. This was not effective for me because I was traveling quite often, and I wanted 1 in the morning, and then I wanted to bring 1 with me at lunch. Additionally to that, my kids started asking me, oh, can I also have a smoothie too? Now, I believed in these health benefits of doing these kale smoothies, and so I wanted these health benefits for my children. So I started thinking about ways to deliver these to my children, and in the mornings I would have to make 3 or 4 different servings using this small blender in order to get the kale to our liking and to where my children would eat them. So I began on my search again for a larger blender that may also do this type of blending. So I went to the store and I started shopping for blenders, and I noticed that there was the standard Black & Decker blender that I had. There was the small blender that I had. There was a mid-level blender called a Ninja that was $99, and then there was a high-level blender called a Vitamix that was $549. Now, the blenders I already had at home were $25 and another $20 respectively. So I already had about $40 invested in blenders at home. So I decided to go, like most people, let's go mid-range because it's a commodity, yet I'm looking for a unique or special benefit to me, right? My unique need was I needed something that would blend this kale very finely. So I bought this $99 Ninja blender. I bring it home and I chop the kale, and yet it did a better job than the Black & Decker. It didn't do as good of job as the smaller blender, the smaller portable blender. So I did okay with the Ninja, yet I wasn't as happy. And I often wondered what would have been like had I bought the Vitamix. And many people had told me that the Vitamix was the way to go, but I simply wasn't willing to jump up another 5 times or 10 times what it would have cost me for my initial investment of my original blenders. Until one day I was visiting my uncle in California. And my uncle eats very healthy, and we were having a conversation about kale smoothies. And he mentions to me that he has a Vitamix. And he says, the Vitamix blends the blends the kale very smoothly, and he doesn't have texture that my kids don't like and the flakiness that gets stuck in my teeth that I don't like. And so he starts telling me that this is the blender for me. So I get excited. I'm, oh, this is great. Yet it's $549. And he says, I paid $500 for my blender 25 years ago. And he says, it's still the same blender. And if anything ever breaks on it, Vitamix will replace it for free. Yet he's never had his break. So now we have longevity of service, unique feature of benefit, client testimonial. I have clear expectations by going to the website and researching Vitamix and reading the Vitamix standards and the fact that if I'm not satisfied for any reason, they will return it. So now I have a performance guarantee. Now to add one more layer to this, when I got home, not only did I order the Vitamix and pay $549 when I already owned 4 other blenders, I additionally bought it from Costco, where they also have high customer expectations and an additional performance guarantee if I'm not happy, and therefore I paid over 10 times what I would have for a blender that essentially can do the same thing. This is how somebody determines their value. So your homework is to write out, what is your longevity of service? What is your unique features or benefits that you offer? Write out multiple customer testimonials and keep them with you. This will allow you to show the consumer what testimonial aligns with their unique feature or benefit. Write out what your customer expectations are. The way I did this is I created the Customer Bill of Rights. My Customer Bill of Rights explains clearly to the customer, not only on the website, but in our presentation, that they have the right for respect, they have the right of communication, they have the right of competence with the agent they're working with, they have the right of loyalty, they have the right of our attention from our staff and our agents. They also have the right of getting the truth, even if it's hard for us to deliver. They have the right of receiving a fair fee, privacy, and ultimately control on their decision making. And their final right is that they'll be treated as a team member when working with our office or our team. The next part is our performance guarantee. The way we handled this is by providing them a 30-day no-hassle guarantee. The statement simply is this: your biggest fear is getting locked into a lengthy agreement with a less than competent real estate agent. And this could cost yourself valuable time and exposure on the market. With us, you get a 30-day no-hassle guarantee. If you list your home with us, you can cancel your listing anytime within the first 30 days and not be charged any fees, assuming we're not under contract with a buyer. This gives the consumer the ability to see us fulfilling those expectations, to see us performing before they feel like they're trapped in a long-term contract. So what I suggest that you do today is take these questions, answer the question for the consumer. Who are you? And how do you care about them? Explain your company and how your company serves them and their community. What specific problems can you solve for this consumer? What is your strategy to solve those problems? What is your fee structure that you're going to charge the customers? And how does that make sense to them so they understand it's a fair fee? It's not the cheapest, it's a fair fee. What are your testimonials? How have they helped people in those specific situations of those specific problems that you're already agreed that you have the ability to solve? What are your rights and expectations that you're going to offer your customers? And what is your guarantee that you're going to provide to them? That's your homework today. Write that out. Get clear in your presentations so your customers know what they can expect from you, and they won't have a problem paying you what you're worth.